Let's return now to our top story, and the government has called in the GCSB to help get to the bottom of the cyber attacks on the NZX. The stock exchange has been hit 4 times in as many days, crippling its website and bringing a halt to trading. The Minister in charge of the GCSB, Andrew Little, joins me now. Good evening, Minister. What can you tell us about what's going on here?
As we know, NZX, the NZX website has been the subject of a DDoS, a distributed denial of service attack over 4 days now. It caused the NZX to have to suspend trading again today, but they've been able to trade all afternoon. So remedial measures were put in place last night. The GCSB has been assisting NZX and their service providers to get remedial measures in place and to get the place operating again. This afternoon they've managed to do that. Investigations into the source are ongoing, but DDoS attacks are notoriously difficult to trace back, but that work is ongoing.
Okay, a lot of things in there. So you say work is being done and investigation is underway. What clues or ideas do you have in terms of motive and where it's coming from?
None of that at the moment. I mean, these things typically are designed to cause disruption with possibly other kind of collateral objectives involved. DDoS attacks are seldom state-sponsored, but obviously that can't be ruled out. So, look, anything is possible, and it is just arduous, meticulous work to try and work through, a huge volume of network transactions to try and find an ultimate source.
Has there been any communication from the perpetrators, any ransom demand?
I can't go into the context of the total background to it, except to say that this has clearly been designed to cause disruption. It's been repeated over a number of days now.
Okay, so what exactly is the GCSB's role here?
Well, they operate the National Cyber Security Centre, and they have an extraordinary depth of expertise in the networks and their security, and then working with organisations both public and private to ensure that they're observing the best sort of cybersecurity measures. And so they've been working with NZX, their IT team, their advisors, their service providers to make sure that A, there is remediation, and B, there is a strategy about making sure that they are in a good position to deal with and be resilient against these attacks in the future.
Is the NZX considered to be a critical piece of national infrastructure, and was the GCSB working with them before this happened?
Well, the GCSB has been working, certainly since the first incident on Tuesday, has been working with them from the outset, but they've worked with them before. But yes, the NZX is a critical part of our financial services infrastructure. It's an important part of our capital markets, and that was why, as this progressed, it became more of an important issue, which is why the GCSB continued to work and add resources to assisting NZX.
So was there any chatter that something like this was coming? Had the GCSB picked up on anything?
No, I mean, the GCSB is, they're not, there's no one that monitors absolutely everything that's going on the internet at any one time. But once NZX was under attack, then they notified the National Cyber Security Centre, which is part of the GCSB, and the GCSB became involved at that point.
Understand that regarding monitoring, but several overseas web bulletins have been raising concerns about 2 particular, groups of cyber attackers as recently as last week. So did anyone have any clue that this was coming?
Yeah, I think the work of the GCSB is mainly centred around assisting organisations dealing with malware, the threat of malware being implanted into networks. They don't deal with things like DDoS attacks, which is multiple, huge volume of traffic coming in from co-opted computers from around the world. The best people to deal with that are actually the internet service providers, the ISPs, so the Sparks and the Vodafones and others. It's their networks that are best able to pick up this sort of activity on their networks.
Are you surprised that such a critical piece of our infrastructure was so vulnerable to this kind of attack and seemingly still is?
Look, I think there's something for NZX to reflect on is just their IT architecture and how they're set up. Other organisations become victims of DDoS attacks here and around the world. In this day and age, there are measures that can be taken to make organisations resilient to it. And in fact, every organisation in New Zealand, every corporate in New Zealand should be making sure that they are protecting their IT infrastructure against this sort of thing. There's very good guidance and advice from an organisation called CERT.
But would you have expected this organisation to be far more resilient than what it has shown itself to be?
I think we can all see how and ask how is it that an organisation like NZX and the important role that it plays in our capital markets could be effectively brought down 4 days in a row because of something that's in their IT architecture. It's a matter for them, but clearly they are vulnerable and they need to make sure that their systems are protected against this in the future.
Are you aware of any other assets that are under risk right now?
No, not at all.
Have any other threats been made directed at any other businesses?
I'm not aware of any that have been notified to the GCSB. The GCSB has just been working with NZX this week.
What is it doing with, say, other critical companies like Fonterra and other assets in light of the fact that we have had this attack and the NZX has seemed to be very vulnerable? Are we circling the wagons around other critical infrastructure?
GCSB does work with other organisations, public and private, and of national significance to New Zealand. And I think events like this are a wake-up call to everybody to make sure that their IT architecture and infrastructure is geared up to be able to be resilient against attacks like this. They are a reality of the modern day. There is good guidance on the CERT website, cert.govt.nz. There's good guidance on what corporates should have in place and do to make themselves less vulnerable to these sorts of attacks.
Have you been talking to any other countries or reached out to anyone outside of New Zealand for assistance here?
No, we haven't. I'm not aware that there's been any contact with overseas countries for assistance. The GCSB has been working with the NZX and providers here. The NZX and its service providers may well have got assistance and advice and technical assistance from overseas companies, but in terms of other countries, no.
Is it solved?
Well, NZX has had an afternoon trading with no further disruption this afternoon, and I think there will be work ongoing over the weekend to make sure that everybody better understands what might have happened and to make sure that the protections are in place ready for Monday.
Appreciate you joining us this evening. That is Andrew Little, who is the Minister in charge of the GCSB.